now that we have, a basic grasp on the English parts of speech and the English, nouns, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, etc. Now let's go into what causes a change in the word order. And in English, our sentence structure usually goes something like this. Normally it will be subject, verb, direct object, indirect object. So for instance, Richard gives the ball to John. Richard, subject, gives is the verb, the ball is the direct object, and to John is the indirect object. Richard gives the ball to John. And as long as none of those words are pronouns, as long as they're all regular nouns or not pronouns, the word order doesn't change at all in Spanish. So Richard throws the ball to John literally maintains its same word order. Richard throws the ball to John. Now, if we were to replace the direct object or the indirect object, either or, with a pronoun instead of a noun, the word order of that sentence has to change. So now instead of Richard throws the ball to John, we're going to say Richard throws it to John. And when you make it a pronoun, when you make the direct object a pronoun, it has to move between the subject and the verb. So the Spanish word order would be Richard it throws to John. Make sense? Now, if the direct object is a pronoun, it moves between the subject and the verb. The same is true if the indirect object is a pronoun. So the Spanish word order for the sentence, Richard throws the ball to him. Now, the indirect object, to him is a pronoun for John. So the English word order is Richard throws the ball to him. In Spanish, you move it to the exact same place you would have moved the direct object if it were a pronoun. So the sentence, the word order, becomes Richard to him throws the ball. Still good? Let's make it a little trickier. If both the direct and the indirect object are pronouns, they both move. The indirect object always comes before the direct object, and they go between the subject and the verb. You can remember this because in Spanish, people are always more important than things. And an indirect object is normally a person, a direct object is normally a thing. So you can always remember that people come first. The other little rule that you can remember for this is the words I do. Like in English when you're getting married and you say I do. If you remember, I do is an acronym for indirect, direct object. That's the order they come in the sentence if they're both pronouns. So the Spanish word order, let's give the English sentence, Richard throws it to him. Okay, we're talking about Richard throws the ball to John. Richard throws it to him. Now the direct object, the ball, becomes it, which is a pronoun. And to John becomes a pronoun to him. So you have to put John before the ball, right? Him comes before it. And they both go between the subject and the verb. So the sentence becomes Richard to him it throws. Okay? If both the direct and indirect object are pronouns, they both move. And the indirect object always comes before the direct object.